Hello there. Thank you for joining. My name is Dr. Isabelle Paquet-Durand, and I am excited to talk to you a bit about the Belize Wildlife and Referral Clinic, the Wildlife Ambassador Program, with some examples of human-wildlife conflict, illegal traffic, and our One Health approach. So I will ever so briefly have to digress and introduce where is Belize. Then the BWRC, our mission, vision, and activities. And then I will give you some examples of human-wildlife conflict, touch on how to prevent it, as well as illegal traffic, as I mentioned. And then we will talk about how this all connects back to One Health and how we use this One Health approach in education with our Wildlife Ambassador program. So where on earth is Belize? I am going to remove this so it doesn't stay on the screen. We are located in Central America, south of Mexico, and east of Guatemala. And to the south, we're bordered by Honduras. It is a really small country. It's only 175 by 75 miles, and we have about 410,000 people living in Belize today. I love our tourism board slogan that touts Belize as Mother Nature's best kept secret, because we are indeed a little bit unknown still. But we do host the second largest barrier reef in the world. About 55% of the country's terrestrial surface is still covered with forest. We have an incredible amount of amazing caves, including the largest cave system in the Western Hemisphere, and also the largest contiguous rainforest north of the Amazon is located right here in the Selva Maya, of which we are part with our Maya Mountains. We have amazing waterfalls and a lot of Mayan sites, so definitely worth a visit. But now to the Belize Wildlife and Referral Clinic, founded in December 2011, with our vision being wildlife conservation and sustainable development through cooperation, recognizing that we have to do everything in cooperation. And our mission is to support wildlife conservation as well as animal welfare and the veterinary profession through veterinary care, education, research, and again, collaboration. What do we do on a daily basis? We care for and rehabilitate imperiled wildlife of all species. We hope to be a voice for humane treatment of animals and provide a lot of education for future generations. But as said, on a daily basis, we provide vet care, assist with rescue and rehab for certain species. We have a 24/7 hotline that people can call. And probably the most important thing we do is environmental education and capacity building. My favorite is the field support. I see 60% of my patients in the field, actually, for conservation partners. Very important to our health as well as everybody else is disease monitoring happening. We do some referral services for domestic animals, as well as necropsies and at times consulting. So since our inception and opening in 2012, we have treated over 7,000 wildlife patients, and we train about 120 persons per year. Currently, it's actually more than that, thanks to our outreach programs. So why do our patients get injured? Almost half of them are victims of human-wildlife conflict, abbreviated throughout potentially as HWC, and about 30% of them are victims of illegal wildlife traffic. So in total, up to 80% of our intakes at the wildlife clinic are directly or indirectly with us because of humans. And many times these humans may have even had good intentions, but they lacked awareness and or capacity to assess and mitigate. So education truly is key, and so is our hotline where people can call before they intervene. And then we developed this Wildlife Ambassador program that I will mention a bit more in a bit. So, what human wildlife conflict species do we have in Belize? It's a very long list. We share this issue. Obviously, human wildlife conflict is global, just with local flavors. So you can see this list some of those species we share, for example, the raccoons. Jaguars are a very important conflict species for us, as well as crocodiles. And most of these conflict species are actually ultimately attracted to food sources. It's either that or nesting space that these animals are often attracted to, then causing this conflict. So more examples that we share with the opossums and the barn owls that may nest in attics. What is the cause of the problem is access to the attic and a hole in the wall. And in the middle here is our most common or most dangerous venomous snake. And we have a lot of myths and fear leading to fatal retaliation in these interactions between humans and wildlife. So these are two patient examples that were ultra rare raptors with a harpy eagle and a solitary eagle, both of which died due to gunshot. How can we minimize this conflict? So this is the fate of many raptors. This X-ray here was an ornate hawk eagle, and those of you who look at X-rays may note that there is no airspace left in this bird, and he has multiple comminuted fractures and gunshots still left in him. So our approach is trying to educate people on the benefits, rodent control in the case of many raptors, and then in the livestock management to prevent and mitigate this conflict, because at times it's caused by myths and misinformation. But of course, we do have wildlife that preys on human livestock and causes, therefore, damage to human livelihoods. Education about myths saves lives. This is an anteater. Our local myth here is that they can stick their long tongue up your ear and suck out brains. So that is obviously a very sad myth, but it leads to people being extremely fearful of these animals when they see them. And this particular one was killed by stoning out of fear. So, a few myths that I'm sure you're already familiar with. A mom will not necessarily reject her baby if humans have touched it. We deal frequently with porcupines that get attacked by fearful humans because they think that they can shoot their quills up to 10 feet. They're firmly attached to modified hair. Barn owls definitely have a lot of sad myths that lead to people retaliating, and not all snakes are dangerous. We actually only have 8 to 9 venomous species out of over 60 total species in Belize. So always ask your vet or a certified wildlife rehabilitator. And how can you help to minimize this also common conflict? Most people really just didn't know. So education is key about the species around you, and feeding of wildlife, uncontained garbage and food remains, as well as holes in walls or roofs that give access for perfect nesting space are the 3 most common causes that we hear on our hotline, and they can easily be mitigated with minor changes of modifications in human behavior. This is obviously not a Belizean example for you here, but it was too obvious for me. Garbage on the road causes not just conflict potentially with humans, but also risks on the road. We do see many of our reptiles is in turtles and crocodiles that are caught with fishing lines and hooks in them or have ingested garbage. We also have had issues with toxicity from ingesting lead shot or killed animals that are left out. So the list again is very long and diverse. And here is an example of a 8.5 foot crocodile, and here's a smaller crocodile with a fishing hook in him, and many more. And some of them are just perceived victims of conflict, meaning they don't really take our food, but they're just in the wrong place. Perfect example for that are snakes. And we do offer extra training for snake identification and conflict mitigation. This is another old case example of a howler monkey that was hit by a car and had a very good outcome, as in a complete recovery, rehabilitation, and ultimately release. But why was the monkey hit by car? The monkey shouldn't be on the road. Habitat loss, of course, impacts many of our species, and 3 out of 10 of our intakes are connected to road traffic accidents. So the dangers of our highways are tremendous for both animals and humans, as well as humans having deadly accidents caused by animals. And this was unfortunately not a happy ending. A margay hit by car that did ultimately not recover. Next conflict example, a jabiru stork, a very large stork, using the airport runway as his walkway. Why? I told you earlier that many of these are attracted to food, and our assessment indeed determined that this animal was coming to the airport and causing deadly danger by planes not being able to land, and sometimes not able to start, but that's maybe not quite as dangerous, just annoying, because this animal was being fed daily by people in this eatery here at the edge of the runway. But happy ending to this story here. He is relocated after much effort. It took and some capture myopathy, but end of the story was a full recovery and relocation and education of these restaurant owners that their actions of throwing out food for him daily were causing this problem. So we recommend and try to encourage non-lethal resolution, starting with prevention and then a proper assessment, because misinterpretation is daily in this. And then starting by removing what brings the animals there, then deterring them, and removal or relocation is a very last resort, which is usually the first thing people ask for. In the US, you have many services that can assist with this in most states, I would hope in all of them. So in summary, we have habitat loss worldwide that causes more conflict, and our behavior encourages this conflict. Myths make it worse, cause a lot of fear, and most of these or many of these issues can be solved with education. Garbage management is a global issue. And yeah, now to briefly a darker topic, I will show you the pocket guides and resources here shortly too. Our next threat that I mentioned is wildlife traffic. It is extremely important and it's a lengthy topic that you can also find on our YouTube channel, actually. And most commonly trafficked species that we know about are birds, and high concern are monkeys. So how does this all connect to One Health? You all obviously may have even seen this slide from the CDC, know that One Health talks about the many connections between the health of animals, our environment, and us humans. We have used this principle and approach for a very long time because our saying is we protect wildlife to help protect all. You all know that many, many, many issues and connections are found under this concept, including zoonosis, which is the main one that I will mention here in this short overview. So we talk a lot about zoonosis in all of our outreach and in our capacity building, and especially the fact how common they are, and that they comprise 3/4 of the emerging infectious diseases. Many people have no idea. Many have heard maybe of zoonosis, but how common these really are and how important they are to us humans, even though they are just animal diseases, most people have no idea. We talk about why we see more zoonotic emergence with habitat loss, again, wildlife trade, intensive agriculture. We talk about AMR and the impact of climate change. So this is not new. This has long been on the radar, but it's definitely not common knowledge. So again, talking about emerging infectious diseases that have been popping up for many, many years and becoming more frequent, and they are in the majority zoonotic, and of that, the majority is from wildlife. So that gives our wildlife health tremendous importance. A lofty goal for wildlife health professionals would be to prevent the next pandemic, because it is very likely to originate from wildlife in trade or possibly a conflict animal. So again, education is key, and we use the One Health approach to people and conservation education because we know that we all care about our own health. We have to train a lot of people that do not care about animals. In fact, we have to train a lot of people that do not like animals at all. So we have to explain to them why should they care about animals and the health of animals and how is that important to them. Zoonosis helps tremendously in making this understandable. And this poster here is one of our patients that we then turned into a poster to try to educate people why these wild animals don't make good pets. And our first argument is indeed the possible disease factor. So our Wildlife Ambassador program was created to increase awareness and improve the wildlife response. We have many different languages spoken in Belize. Here is 6 of them as a translation of this concept that, and this is Creole, Kanek Alawi, means connects all of us. And the essence of the message is you see wildlife in trouble or wildlife gives you trouble, call us before you take any risks to your own health and or make things accidentally worse. So with this program, we want to prevent and mitigate biodiversity loss, as well as zoonosis transmission and the threats to human livelihoods through the conflict between humans and wildlife and illegal traffic. We do so through awareness building and training. We empower community-based natural resource management. Our training is nationwide, and we encourage collaboration between enforcement, NGOs, and communities, again, to improve the response to wildlife emergencies and keep humans safe. So we do social media outreach and workshops. Most of them are 2-day intensive workshops, and all of that is coupled with our 24/7 hotline and emergency response with a vet clinic and rehab facilities. We appeal to our participants' self-interest. We use this One Health approach to make them understand why the health of environment and animals is important to them. We spent the last 7 years developing this program, creating these 2 pocket guides on those major topics. We have a Google Classroom, a YouTube channel. We do monthly lives. The next one is coming up soon. And again, that is coupled with our 24/7 hotline and the field support. This was our first workshop focusing mostly on enforcement in 2018, so mostly police officers actually. And despite those being persons that did not come because they liked animals, we got excellent grades. People learned mostly new stuff. They found it extremely useful, and 100% wanted it repeated, and 100% wanted more training. And we got 20 requests to do this in different departments. So we did over the last few years, we have now done 40 plus workshops and about 650 persons that we have certified. The majority is still male because of our strong focus on enforcement first. Huge diversity from police to military to conservation partners, university students, Maya leaders, and Garifuna Council, youth farmers, teachers, and scouts. And we are now starting to focus more on females and offering our first fellowships for females and indigenous persons. Very excited about that. Funding currently is coming from United Nations Industrial Development Organization and Global Environment Facility. And what about disease monitoring? I mentioned that we do that, and I wanted to just ever so briefly mention this training in 2024, 3 months on frontline epidemiology for One Health workers, where I did a very brief surveillance report, and I just wanted to give you one of the discussion points of this. So we looked at 20 weeks, Epi week 20 to 40, and what did come in and what did we see. So I'll leave out all the rest, but we found 24 suspected zoonotic and or reportable diseases in 44 patients. And we're a small place. And we confirmed 13 different zoonoses in-house. So we all know the high risk of zoonotic diseases in wildlife species. We also diagnosed vector-borne diseases and parasitic zoonosis. We conducted further education for rescuers that brought us these diseased animals and staff. And we sent 6 samples to the government in that time for testing of avian influenza, rabies, myiasis, so that was New World screwworm, as well as leishmaniasis, and of 2 samples that we collected with this training group, we actually got a positive case, which was only the 4th country report for Belize for animal leishmaniasis to the World Organization of Animal Health. So our big goal, prevent and mitigate conflict or crime and decrease mortality and zoonosis risk. Our preferred outcome, release. Ultimate goal, coexistence between all of us and One Health for us all. And yeah, that is the end of this presentation. Thank you so much for the attention. And I look forward to your questions now.